locomotive that has just come off the big semi-truck in the background is what makes putting it with the 1835 a generation faced with a generation. Welcome back to the Sunshine State Rails. Here in Willow, Florida, we have come out here on Thursday, January 23rd, to film the aftermath of the arrival of Jeddo Coal steam locomotive number 85. After making its journey down here on the semi-truck, it was offloaded, and the 1835 was the first locomotive to pull it away. Holding the train out here until they can get the semi-truck out of the way gives us a chance to really look at the size comparison between these two locomotives. With all of the maintenance equipment out of the way and the track in Willow clear, the train is now pulled into Willow, taking the 85 with them. Bringing the Jeddo Coal 85 into Willow Yard would mark the first time a steam locomotive has touched these rails in 50 plus years. 1953 was the last time a steam locomotive officially ran down these tracks. The museum has run steam excursions before, but the trains had never come into Willow Yard like they are this year. With the train finally stuck into Willow, the crew was done for the day. From here we would leave the museum, and once the 85 had its test runs under its own power on Friday, we would return on Saturday, January 25th, to film and document the first passenger rides given by this old steam locomotive. Before we took off though, I would like to point out the new cars that have been placed on the new tracks here in Willow. The brand new track expansions that the museum had been working on over the past few months here in Willow are now being used. Equipment that was once stored way back in the yard, plus equipment that was stored on the old spur that led to the FPL power plant, have been pulled out and placed on this track. There's still lots of rolling stock sitting down on the FPL spur, but that will come out in coming years. Well, the time has come. The morning of January 25th has arrived in the cab of Jeddo Coal 85 to head north on the first 9 o'clock trip of Saturday. Yeah.
Now that one, go ahead and shut the door up for the time being.
Today, we would be riding the 9 a.m. train and filming the 12 p.m. train from the ground. So here we go. The matted whistle blew for the very first run in 10 years of a live steam locomotive at the Florida Railroad Museum. As opposed to the 2 runs after us, ours was fairly laxed, maybe 15 people on the train this morning. So moving back to the end of the train at the FGCX 86902 flat car, we get a clear view of the track and wilderness passing behind us. Following behind us is GP7 High Hood number 1835. They are running this behind all of the steam excursions to pose as a fire train. Steam locomotives running down the tracks will sometimes drop ambers on the ties, and that poses the risk for fires, whether that's on the ties or the woods. So 1835 running behind us has gallons and gallons of water on board to put out any fires that may arise. Good.
So is this where they're gonna film at?
Now with the train having stopped just south of Willow Yard, the steam locomotive is now running around the train to push it into Willow and then pull it back south to Parrish.
Here we come, the picture.
Conductor, the training.
Wait, are we leaving again? Apparently we're going back more.
Once everybody was off the train at the Willow Yard, they were supposed to do 2 photo run-bys for the Jeddo 85, though unfortunately on this run they can only do a single run-by due to a time crunch that they had to get back to Parrish in time to complete their last 2 runs and their hobo campfire event, which would happen later tonight. Adding to the limited amount of time, the crew had to get more water back in the locomotive to complete the trip back to Parrish. It had been about 20 minutes, but now that everyone was back on the train, we were ready to leave the yard and make the trek back to Parrish to pick up more excited passengers to come back out to Willow and back. The station in Parrish was soon upon us again. I have a couple people to mention here. Joining me on this trip was my friend Dalton. Check him out on YouTube at Along Came Dalton. And waiting at the platform to board the next ride is my friend Trevor. Check him out on YouTube at Tampa Bay Rail Fan. The running around the train at Willow is an action performed in every single run, so they have to get the steam locomotive from the rear to the front of the train before each run starts. So here is how they do it. First off, after following the train south, 1835 hooks onto the front of the train. They pull the train itself down past the northernmost switch in Parrish. Then, after putting the steam locomotive itself onto the side track, they push the train back down to the platform. Then, after taking 1835 off the train and putting it in the siding, the steam locomotive can back onto the front of the train to pull it back out to Willow.
Hey, Glenn.
After each trip, the coal inside the 85 must be restocked. So, loaded buckets on, empties coming off. It's a dirty process that takes about 20 minutes, but once it's all over and done, the train is now ready to leave for the noon trip. At the southernmost point of Willow Yard, once the steam locomotive has backed the train in, 1835 is coming onto one of the yard tracks, so once 85 is ready to go south, they can take the lead again. It's about 20 minutes before everything is done in Willow again, and the train is now ready to power out of the station and back to Parrish. With the train on its way south, 1835 is now ready to rejoin the main line and follow the train back home. Today is January 25th, 2020, and this run pulling back into Parrish would mark the end of our day here. We had already caught and rode a run, so we didn't plan on staying here any longer. But this locomotive is here for 2 more weekends, so if you have a chance to come out and ride, be sure to buy a ticket and come on out. I may be back out here myself one of these weekends to get some more videos that I didn't this time. But until then, this is Kotabeaner, and I'll see you next time on the Sunshine State Rails.